Hey everyone, Dominic the Primetime Treasure Hunter here. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about 10 types of items that you could find at home to resell during a pandemic. Now, I never thought that I would do a video with this title before, but here we are. It's Tuesday morning, March 17th, 2020. Normally, I would be at my full-time job at the hospital seeing patients, but I was told yesterday not to show up for the week, no patients whatsoever, and to just stay home. I was also told that this situation could go out for a month or more. Now, many of you find yourselves in a similar situation in which you've been told by your employer to work from home. Unfortunately, there have been many people who have already lost their jobs. This has particularly hit people hard in the hospitality and food services industries. And there have been many people who have been forced to rely on sick leave and vacation time just to cover future paychecks. So American life as we know it has drastically changed over the last 2 days. That's when things started to shut down more as the virus has continued to spread. It's such a problem because it is so contagious. So as a result of that, basically any place where people get together in groups, get in close contact with one another, need to basically shut down or to have really significant restrictions in terms of person-to-person interactions. The term right now a lot of people are using is social distancing. People are trying to keep about 6 feet apart from one another, and no groupings of people. This is the federal guidance right now, of 10 people or more together in one place. So it's really caused a lot of restrictions, not only in terms of employment, but it's also affected schools, and it's also affected other places where people would go. So malls shutting down, grocery stores having restrictions, not only in terms of hours, but also in terms of the number of items you could purchase. So people who are relying on stores for things like retail arbitrage, that's not going to be as viable of an option anymore. My local Wegmans grocery store right by me has just started rationing like it's wartime. One type of item per person. You cannot buy things in multiples there. Every store is a little bit different in terms of how they're doing it, but it's getting more restrictive by the day. So you talk about traditional sourcing locations that we go to. These are things I talked about in my initial video that I did about coronavirus. Now, I have a background in healthcare, so if people are interested, they want to see my initial intro video just about the coronavirus itself and anticipating ways things could change for resellers, go back to that video. So one of the things I was talking about is reselling sourcing locations shutting down. So estate sales, not going to happen. Flea markets, not going to happen. Rummage sales, not going to happen. Church sales, church services are shutting down and closing. So church rummage sales are not going to happen. Community garage sales. Someone just asked me about this on YouTube. That's not going to happen. You may have a couple of people who set something up, here and there, but in general, it's going to be slim to none in terms of that stuff. Now, I will say we are at a tipping point right now, and spring is right around the corner. So when I say tipping point, what that means is that things are either going to get dramatically and exponentially worse over the next few weeks to months. The hospital systems may get overwhelmed. It may be like a tidal wave coming over them. And I'm not being dramatic. That is literally the case if you look at the numbers. Particularly in New York State, by the way, which is where I am. Now, it could be that all of these social distancing measures that have been going on helps to smooth out the curve in terms of the spread and flatten things out. I hope that's the case, but it might not be. So you need to be prepared for worst case situations. So schools, that affects people who are resellers, because if you had free time, you have kids and you had free time during the day, well, now your kids are going to be home. Now, yes, they're going to be doing online education, online learning. Now, granted, this hasn't happened to every state yet, but yesterday, and just to show you how quickly things are changing, in New York State, the whole entire state has been shut down for schools. Now, that's huge. New York's a big state, and New York City is the biggest school system in the country. So it's a dramatic step. So parents are now in situations where they're scrambling for childcare, and they're also trying to figure out ways that they could keep their kids entertained and keep them busy, keep them mentally stimulated. And this relates to some of the things I'm going to talk to about this video, because it's not going to be just 10 random items. I said, what if we could just go and see if we could find 10 items just laying around the house, not things that you purchased for resale, but that people who are in a situation where they're hunkered down could really make use of, things that they would really need, things that might be in short supply. Now, I want to be careful here. I'm not talking about any types of items that involve price gouging. So you want to make sure you're staying away from masks, respiratory masks, hand sanitizers, Clorox wipes, those types of stuff. Do not even bother listing that stuff. You could lose your account on eBay or Amazon. They're really cracking down on that type of stuff. Even if you think you only have it priced up a couple bucks over what it normally is, don't even bother with that stuff right now. It is not worth the risk. So we're not going to be talking about that type of stuff. But think about it. People are going to be cooped up. They're going to need some extra entertainment things to do, because movie theaters shut down, concerts shut down, parks shut down. All those types of places you would normally go, extracurricular activities, sports shut down. So people are being asked to shelter at home. So let's get into these 10 items. Now, it's not really a top 10. It's not any particular list. But one of the things that jumps out to me, and I thought about this because I came home and saw my son doing this, which is, where is it? It's got to be here. So here we go. I got a lot of things all around me right now. But video games. People are going to really be purchasing more video games because this is going to be something that they could spend hours and hours of time with. Now, I really like the Lego games, which is why I picked these out, because they're fun. They take a lot of time to do. There's a lot of building involved with them. And they also are cognitively stimulating. There's a lot of like puzzle solving and stuff you have to do with the games. I love playing them with my kids. These are ones that they had when they were younger. And this is what I'm talking about. These are things that I just had laying around that I'm not really using, that in a pinch, if I wanted to sell them because I needed to bring in some additional money, I could do that. And I'm trying to generate ideas for you as well. Now, will they literally be things that you make a profit on? Not necessarily, because if you paid full retail for some of this stuff, then, you're not necessarily going to make a profit on it per se. There could be some things you have around the house that I talk about here that you got at a discount that maybe you profit on. But at this point, if you've lost your job or your hours have been cut back and you're trying to figure out, how am I going to get stuff listed, where am I going to get inventory, you need to start thinking outside the box and looking at your house. And yes, I've talked about before that you could go into dead stock or back stock, whatever you want to call it, death piles. Sure, if you have that stuff, go into it. But one of the things I was thinking about when I came up with the idea for this video is, what about people who don't have a lot of back stock? Maybe they just started out, or maybe they're the type of reseller who only goes out and gets stuff after they sold most of their stuff. So maybe you only have like a week's left of supply left. So I'm thinking of those types of people too as I make this video. So video games are going to be very, very popular. Now, and I'm also trying to tell you some things that I'm doing as well and we're doing here at my household. So one of the things Mrs. Primetime has whipped out are puzzles. So kids like to do puzzles. Now, these are ones that I picked out from when kids were younger, but puzzles could really help you, spend a lot of time. And again, you could spend time together as family doing this, and they could be, something that's cognitively stimulating, so that you're, not just sitting there passively watching TV. All that's a valid form of entertainment, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But you also want to make sure you're working some things in that cause you to think a bit, because you're going to be home for a long time, and you want to make sure you're keeping yourself mentally engaged with stuff. So there's some smaller, shorter ones. I picked these out because these are easier to ship. Many people, when they think of puzzles, they think of these, bigger ones, these longer ones. And shout out to Jessie Shops, because I know she loves sharks. But you know, these would be ones, obviously you want them to be complete, so you want to verify that. Maybe you have some that are unopened that you haven't used. Maybe you're not a puzzle type of person. You got some as gifts. You bought some for your kids when you were younger, never used them. This would be the time to sell them, because I'm telling you, there are going to be people out there looking for puzzles. In fact, Mrs. Primetime just ordered a puzzle, like a bigger puzzle, like, you know, 1,000-piece puzzle or something that's going to keep, you know, her and the kids occupied for a longer time period, because they're older now. But so it's going to depend on what age range in terms of the number of puzzle pieces people are going to purchase, but people are going to be looking for all different types. So that's something that's important. Another thing that's important to look for, and these are things, by the way, that are good to resell in general. I'm just picking out things to really focus on this particular time period that we find ourselves in. Card games. People are going to want to play a lot of card games. So yeah, they'll use a regular deck of cards, which they're going to have, and they're probably not going to be going out looking for that, because most people have a deck of cards. But they'll look for special games like this Monopoly deal game, or, you know, there's so many other types of games. You know what I'm talking about if you just see this one. People will be looking for that, and I love that type of item, because a lot of people have those laying around from when their kids were younger. They haven't necessarily thrown them out yet, and they're very easy to ship. Those are going to go out first class, just easy to put in an envelope and get out of here. And these things could be buried in your drawers right now. So go dig out those chests, those toy chests. Start pulling these things out of there and looking for these things to sell. Now, another thing people want to do to pass the time is read. Another cognitively stimulating activity. I like the idea of selling book sets. So this is my favorite book series of all time. This is the Dragonlance series. It's the initial 3 books. I absolutely love these. If you haven't read them, I highly recommend it. Something that's fantasy related like this, that could get you into a different a realm, a different world. People are going to want escapism during this time. Think about that psychologically. Escapism. People are going to do that with video games. That's going to provide a form of escapism, and so will reading books. So anything that takes people to a different place is definitely good. I like also the idea of trying to resell like some encyclopedic type books like this. Of course, I have ones that are superhero related, so this is something that I have on one of my bookshelves up here. But I like things like this that are just like chock full of like all different facts, because this is something that you really could just dive into and just spend a lot of time reading. So, and it's a lot of fun. So things like this would be a good idea. Here's a Batman one, Essential Batman Encyclopedia. So these are not things, again, that I ever purchased to resell. I'm showing you just some personal items of mine that in an emergency or in a situation, if I really needed stuff, I could turn around, I could flip it. And while I wouldn't want to sell something like that necessarily, but I would if I could, something like this I have laying around, I wouldn't necessarily mind selling. This magazines are good as well, especially if you have ones that do like compilations like this of wrestlers. So I'm a big wrestling fan, so anything like this that you have laying around could be good. Or I'm also a big history fan, as many of you know. So, this is something I bought for myself to read at, Barnes & Noble one day. And so I love, books like this. They're just, again, just filled with little historical facts and stuff like that. And you could just, spend a lot of time just sitting here, and reading a book like this. So books, magazines, and this is kind of almost like a magazine book kind of thing. It's sold in the magazine section, but it's kind of like a book. So it's like a hybrid. So there's things like that. Now, I did talk about passive entertainment, and yes, there are going to be a lot of people who are binging on Netflix or Hulu or those types of services, or just watching regular television. But this is the time that people will also go out and they will particularly be looking for DVD sets. Now, it will be harder to sell like an individual movie, but if you have sets, particularly ones that are complete, that people could binge on during this time and kill a lot of time, especially if you have ones with extra features, things like commentaries, those things could really be helpful. So, it could be TV shows, like, of course, this would be one that I have, He-Man, Masters of the Universe, Volume 1, and yes, I do have Volumes 2 and 3, or, something like this, like, James Bond series that has all the James Bond movies up until this time that it was made. Or one of my other favorites, the whole entire Batman series. You could just, binge on this. Like, this is something that people would look for. If you have things like this laying around that might have been gifted to you, or things that you've already watched, big complete sets like this, like Lawrence of Arabia, people love this stuff. There's a lot of people who love to dig into all those documentaries and commentaries and all that type of stuff. So these are all things that you could have laying around that you could part with. Again, not necessarily that you would want to part with all that stuff, but some of the stuff in a pinch you could, and some of the stuff you may find that you just don't want. So that's 5 types of items. Let's go through the next 5. So another thing people are going to be looking for are non-perishables. And we're talking about non-perishable foods, and as a separate category would be non-perishable drinks. So these are things, when I say non-perishable, are things that, not that they can't ever get stale, of course, at a certain point they would and go bad, but these are things that don't require refrigeration and don't require, being frozen or anything like that. So as an example, just pulled something out of our pantry upstairs, something like this. Pastas, if you remember from my trip to the grocery store the other day, one of the things that was really short in supply were pastas. So people are looking for that. Now, I'm going to just advise you, when you list this type of stuff, you don't want to jack the prices up on people, or you could get accused of price gouging. Now, this isn't the type of thing people are going after people for right now, but it's a fluid situation. So I just want to make sure people are careful. Do not price gouge. But, another type of thing you may have laying around, canned goods, like things like tuna fish and stuff like that. You have to make sure you're not selling anything that's expired. You have to make sure, of course, that you comply with eBay's rules on selling food. So make sure that you look into that. In terms of non-perishable drinks, what I would look for is I would try to avoid shipping liquids in the mail, because that always adds a layer of complication to it right now. But things like coffees, like if you have like cake cups and stuff laying around, like, these Keurig things. So this is something that we just pulled out of upstairs, did not buy it for resale, but I could sell it. Now, Miss Primetime would probably kill me if I sold this, but we could sell this, if we needed to. Or, teas. So this is another good example, something that someone would look for on the market. They might not have this at the grocery stores near them. And also keep in mind, while you may live in an urban area, or maybe you live in the suburbs, but you're close to like a city life, remember, there's a lot of people out there who are in rural areas where they don't have a grocery store near them. The nearest grocery store might be an hour away. We don't know what's going to happen in terms of gas lines and stuff. There's not anything like that now, but we don't know. So, people are going to want to get stuff like that, and it might not be easy for them. Now, postal services, this is why it is all important, is postal services are still open. USPS is still open. FedEx is still open and delivering, UPS. So as long as that is open, that's actually a really good situation for resellers right now. It's tough in one sense, in that sales are dipping for a lot of people, because a lot of people are conserving, and during a time of uncertainty, people don't usually spend as much. But that's again why I came up with these specific items, because these are things that I think would be more likely to sell during this time. So that's number 6 and 7, non-perishable foods and non-perishable drinks. Now, another thing is look for things that can entertain people, particularly kids, but also adults. You could work on some of these things with your kids. That will take a long time game-wise. And I actually put this in a separate category, because they really are in a world of their own, but they're Legos. And you may have lots of Legos or Lego sets around that your kids used in the past that they don't use anymore. And even if you have pieces missing, what you could do is put them in bags like this, and you could sell Legos by the pound. And you could go online and you could check what the current marketplace is in terms of, the going rate for Legos by the pound. But that's one of the things that you can do. So don't worry. A lot of people think with Legos, you always have to sell them in a complete sealed box and everything like that. Not the case. So people will just buy things for pieces and just say, hey, great. Here, Johnny, here, Sally, here's a bunch of Legos to spend some time and play with downstairs in the basement for an hour, hopefully. Give mom and dad a little break. So, and the other good thing about them, again, I emphasize that it's not passive entertainment. It's active engagement with something, and they're trying to build something. And not just Legos. I mean, you could also do blocks and stuff like this, but I think Legos are ideal because they're lighter and they're more compact and they're easier to ship than like big wooden blocks and stuff like that. Other things would be, I'll link it with this, I guess, would be games. So, games that take a lot of time. So things like, and of course I have a Doctor Who themed one. If you have any themed ones, that's better than just like the generic Risk or like the generic Monopoly. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan, for those of you who don't know. But games that take a long time. So Risk takes a long time. What's another game that takes forever, right? Everyone knows Monopoly takes forever. So regular Monopolies will still sell, but also like a Doctor Who Monopoly, like here you go, a Dalek Monopoly, or maybe a Star Wars Monopoly. Again, these are not things I bought to resell, just things that I have in terms of like, personal collection, things I bought for kids and stuff like that. In terms of, and also again, it's active engagement, it's cognitively stimulating, it's, and it's stuff that takes a while to do. In terms of just some other things, baby supplies, a lot of moms out there looking for stuff, for their babies, and baby supplies, could be, in shortage. So if you have anything laying around, from when your kids were younger that, you don't need anymore, might be some overstock that's sitting around, consider looking for that, in either your vanity area, under the sink, dig back there, see if there's anything in your, in your bathroom closets. Maybe you find like a tube of, a Balmex. Of course, you want to find things that haven't been opened. You don't want to sell used containers of this stuff. But if you have anything that's like new old stock kind of stuff or stuff that's just been sitting around not open, these are the types of things people are going to be looking for. Again, be careful and just make sure you're not gouging people on the price, and put the price fair for what the marketplace is going. Just to, again, just get some items up to generate sales for yourself. And how could I forget, last but not least, but if I did not include this, she would kill me. That's right, Daisy, even though she wouldn't kill anybody, but pet supplies, pet stuff, pet food, pet snacks, things like this. If you have any extra bags around like this that maybe you just don't need, maybe you have enough for your dog for the next couple months, you have some extra laying around, these are the kinds of things that you could flip. Or, maybe your dog doesn't really need the treat. Your dog is fine with regular pet food, and you have a couple bags around. This is something you could get up and you could list, might just be laying around. Again, this is something we just happen to have. Did not purchase this for reselling, just had it around, and I could list this if I wanted to. So I'm just trying to help people come up with some ideas that they could, use, think outside the box a little bit, and think of the situations that people are in. Not to take advantage of them and to manipulate them and to gouge them. That's what you do not want to do. That will come back to bite you. You could get in legal trouble for that stuff, and your customers are going to wind up hating you and not coming back to you. That's not what you want to do. You want to put stuff out there that serves a need, that is helping to entertain people, helping people to pass a time, and do it in a way that's fair. That's one of your things that you could do right now. It's something that you could help fulfill out there, and provide a service, and still also make some money for you and your family. So I hope that these tips are helpful for you. I know that I haven't named everything possible, and that's why we have a comment section. So if there's other things that you think of, other ideas, go and put that in the comment section. Other people are going to go and look there, and that'll give them ideas as well. So make sure you come by tomorrow night, or whenever it is that you're watching this, Wednesday night, the 18th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am doing a solo live show. I'm sure this topic will come up, but there's going to be 2 giveaways. I'm giving away a spot for Support That Seller Sunday. I'm giving away a $50 gift card on Amazon, so you could use it for whatever you want. It doesn't have to just be on Amazon, so it's any gift card to any place that you want. If you want an Amazon gift card, fine, but it could be any place. And also, we're doing a little auction. That's right, this guy right here, Pink Panther, he is being auctioned off. So now I have to have at least 2 people bidding for this auction to work. So to bid, you need to register. How do you register? You got to send an email to me at primetimetreasure, there's no S, primetimetreasure@gmail.com. You need to tell me your name, you need to tell me your YouTube name, and you need to tell me your email well, I said email, your email for PayPal, the email you would use for PayPal, because I would send you an invoice if you win Pink Panther. So it's a way for you to take home a piece of the show. He's been here for a while, but he's gotten bigger. He's gotten taller. It's kind of like Buddy the Elf working in the workshop, and now he's gotten big enough. He needs to go out and he needs to go explore. So we're going to send him out on his merry way. He's going to join one of you in your reselling business. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Come to my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center, and come to my Instagram account. That's @prime_time_treasure. The links are all down below, so go check them out, and I'll see you tomorrow night during the live show. Take care, everyone.